Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this edition of Masterspec's webinar. So what we'll be focusing on today is Office Masters. So firstly, let me introduce myself. My name is Emma Rolston, and I am the marketing coordinator here at Masterspec. So what we'll be talking about today is Office Masters, and we'll be talking about the benefits of using an Office Master. We'll talk about how to use an Office Master, how to maintain, how to find, how to create, and how to edit Office Masters. So before we get started, so what is an Office Master? An Office Master is a way to insert practice experience. It is a master template that you can use to use on repeatable projects. You can maintain consistency with them. You can manage risk. And it's just a great way to get a fast start on your projects and your specifications. Great, so let's jump into Office Masters, and we're going to start by how to create and edit Office Masters. So before you create, you actually have to have administrator privileges. So if you do not have administrator privileges, you'll need to speak to the administrator within the Masterspec system for your practice, or you can contact our team and get that all set up for you. Right, so I'm just going to minimize my camera, and then I'm just at the end of the presentation, we'll also have time to take questions. So feel free to write that on the right-hand side of the demo in the chat box. Great. So when you log in, what you'll see first is your dashboard. So if you're an administrator, what you'll want to do is start creating your Office Master. So you're just going to jump into Projects. And then underneath Office Masters, you'll select Create a new Office Master. On the top here, you have the option of selecting a title. So let's just say this is House Type 1. Actually, we'll select 3 for today. And then you can do description of work, section content, intended usage. And then at the bottom here, you can select Create Master From. You can start blank, or you can clone an existing specification document, which will save you even more time. But today, we'll start with Start Blank. Select Add. And you'll see all of your Office Masters in the list here in alphabetical order. Find your specifications or your Office Master that you just created, and then select Show Detail. On the left-hand side here, you'll see when you opened it and who opened it, and then you'll also see the status that it's currently in. On the right-hand side, you'll see the status, and then obviously the date created, and then last updated. It's just really important if you do want to maintain your Office Masters, which you should be all the time. Underneath here, you see Count of Work section in Office Masters. So what this displays is if there's any out-of-date information in any work section in your Office Master, it will display beside these icons here. So you always want to be maintaining your Office Master to make sure it's the latest update, so nothing's out of date or inaccurate. So on the right-hand side, you'll see Edit Setup, and this is where we just inputted that information. On the right-hand side, you'll see Edit Content. So let's select Edit Content. We'll have the opportunity now to start adding content into your Office Master. On the left-hand side, you'll see the work sections eventually when we input it. And then on the right-hand side, you'll see all of your libraries. So let's get started with adding content. So select your library that you'd like to go into, and then select your work section. I'm going to download the work section fully to the Office Master at this time. So you'll see your work section on the left-hand side populate. And then in the middle, you'll see all of the text that you're able to edit. So let's just find a clause here that we can edit the information. So this is a clause that you would most likely, it's very common to use in your Office Master because your business name won't change and you'll always usually need this work section. So let's type in Treehouse Architects, and then our postal address. Right. So every 3 seconds, your Office Master will save, and that's you can edit all the information. Once you are finished with the information, you can select Set to Complete, and that will just set your work section to complete and just maintain the efficiency of that. Great, so now let's jump into if you're a specifier. So that was creating a Office Master. Now we want to use Office Master. So if you were a specifier, you would log into your Masterspec account, and then you would see the dashboard where we are now. Creating a new specification will be where you want to click. And then here you have the option of using an existing project or starting a new project. So for today, I'm going to use an existing project. And then you'll be able to name your specification. So I'm just going to say house on the hill. And then your author. And then underneath here, you have create specification from. So you can start blank. You can clone an office master, which is what we'll be doing today, and clone an existing specification document. So select clone an office master. Now a little box will pop up underneath this these options. And you might not be able to see this on my screen, but when you select the box, the drop down will actually show all of your office masters. On the left-hand side of the office master title, if it's out of date, it will have an asterisk beside it. So if you do see an asterisk, just notify your administrator to update the work sections, because it is important to have that accurate and up to date at all times. So let's select our office master and then select add. So now you'll see the information of the work section that we just created on the left-hand side. And you can also see company details that we entered. So then you can go ahead and edit any of the information by selecting edit and then just typing in the information. Great. So the next thing I want to show you is if you don't want to download an entire office master, a great tip is to go into the right-hand side. Beside Office Masterspec systems, so those are the libraries that you once saw, you have office masters. You can actually go into the office master that you'd like the work section from and select the work section individually. And this will just save you time if there's only one that you want to add in, rather than the entire office master then having to delete the work sections out. So that is that. Perfect. So the last thing that I wanted to show you for the webinar was updating the update manager. So the update manager is, again, for the administrator. As we've been mentioning, you do need to maintain the office master to make sure that it's always relevant and accurate. So this is what you're going to do if there's a work section that's out of date. So go into projects at the top, select manage, and from here you'll see all of your work sections again. Sorry, your office masters again. On the right-hand side, before we looked into the details here. Now, before we didn't see any work sections out of date beside in our office master, but now we can see that there's one. So this is a great way to check, even if you just wanted to go through all of your office masters, you can actually hide and show all of them and maintain them, just to say you put a monthly reminder in your calendar or something of that sort. So let's go in and take a look at what section's out of date. So we're going to select edit content. And then once you're in your specification, on the left-hand side in the work section area, you'll see that same icon. So we're going to select that. And then at the top, that icon is there again. So we're going to select, you can either view changes or you can update manager. So we're going to look into update manager because we know we want to update the information. Now, what you'll see is the update manager. Left-hand side is the old specification. Right-hand side is the new specification with all the edited information in it. So this can be done if there is updates to codes and standards, if the product that is in the work section has changed slightly, or the editors wanted to delete a clause. On the left-hand side, you can see quick view, and if you select any of the colored bars here, it actually takes you to the clauses that have the changes. And when you read the clauses, if you do want to bring them into your old specification, you can select overwrite, and that will just pull the information from the right-hand side into the left-hand side. So once you're finished, select back to Office Master, and that it will update your information. So that is pretty much the gist of how we use an Office Master and information about it. So opening it up to question and answers now, if anyone does have any information that maybe I didn't cover. So while I'm waiting for that, I will show you a bit of a tip. And Mark, actually, I think it's just here. So can you tell me how to include some practice instructions into the Office Master? Yes, so a great tip that you can use is underneath, if you select a clause, we're going to select edit to that clause first. If you select the clause, you can actually write information, and this is from a perspective of the administrator. So the administrator can write notes to the specifier by selecting this little add editor note. And it's similar to our green guidance notes. It's almost your own practice guidance notes. So you can select, please do not delete this clause. And that just advises and saves in the Office Master so that when the specifier uses the work section next time, they know not to delete that clause, and it just maintains it. So these do not need to print. They're just to guide your team. Great. Is there any other questions before we wrap up? Great. So we'll close up there today. What I did, so we just had another question here. So once you go through, is there a way you can close that off to show we have been through it? Yes. Calvin, I'll touch base with you after about that. I'll be able to show you individually. Great. So yeah, so Mark just answered, so set to complete. Calvin, I'll jump in and show you that after the webinar, just to give you some insight into that. Great, so the next webinar that we have is going to be on August 29th, and that will just, we'll actually be going through this really exciting new innovation that Masterspec has, and it's called work section support. So tune in to that webinar next month, and we'll have all these new exciting things to tell you and show you, and it's just a great way to communicate with the supplier and get information specific to your work section. Great, so thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.